Welcome everybody to our analysis stream. Thursday, November. What is today? The 11th. Thought it was like the 13th or something like that. Thursday the 11th, Friday the 12th. Mr. Coffee says the Chinese philosopher Confucius, he who learns but does not think is lost. He who thinks but does not learn is in great danger. Nice, Mr. Coffee, with Chinese philosophy. Good old Confucius. Mr. Coffee's been reading his fortune cookies. What's up, guys? We're a little late to start today. I apologize. Welcome to our Thursday analysis stream. I've got a bunch of games shared with me by our subscribers. So far, we have, but not limited to, Sumaher, Astrobate, Gomez Garcia, Ripun, and A. Morales. I'm sure that I've missed someone. Actually, Mr. Slow usually submits a game. He looks missing. Yabatis, aka Spectacular Camel, does not have a game this week. But I am concerned about Mr. Slow. Let's see. Rudolph is baking. What's up, B-Jock? B-Jock's got the first game in for tonight. Rudolph's been doing a baking stream. Come on now. Alright. Serious chess player. We've got Sumaher versus Sparkle Horse. These people, they submit my losses. Brutal. Just makes me look bad, Sumaher, submitting my loss here on the stream. Okay, anyway, this was an interesting battle. From last week's Simul, you asked if you can. Absolutely. Absolutely. My 7th grade English teacher would lose her mind with you. That was her big thing. She was totally crazy obsessed with this one thing in English. If you ask, you should say, may I? If you can, it's like literally like, are you able to? But if you say, may I, it means that you're asking for permission to do something. And my English teacher in 7th grade was like hysterical. Everybody says, can I? Not just if you're a foreigner speaking English, but Americans do it all the time. So you reminded me of her. May I submit it? Yes, you may. May I go to the can? Can I? You can. She would like troll us. She'd be like, yeah, sure you can. And then we'd like get up to go to the bathroom and she'd be like, where are you going? Well, I said, can I go to the bathroom? She said, you can go to the bathroom. She traumatized me. Novembari send the came. Novembari? This is definitely Novembari. Is that like Serbian for November? Novembari must be Serbian for November. Serbo-Croatian. There is no actual, I don't know how it works. Novembar. Alright, we've got Novembar. Sumaher's game with white against me from last Simul. D4, knight f6, c4, e6. Man, my repertoire is too narrow here. I did beat Sumaher with the what was it? I did play, I should submit my own game. The Snake Benoni, I wanted to say. It's been a long day. I'm a little too narrow here. You know, I really need another move. It's, especially against you. It reminds me of the time when I played Zoltan Ribley, and like, I prepared for him to play knight f3, and he, like, just played knight c3 against me. I was like, what am I gonna do? You know? Are you serious? Like, the guy's a 2600, and you're sure he's gonna play knight f3. and then he plays knight f3 against you, and all your preparation just went out the window. Like, I'm not playing the Nimzo against the guy who, like, went out of his way to play knight c3 against me when he knows I almost always play the Nimzo in this position. So what's black's other option? I mean, you either play d5 or you play c5, and that's about it. It's a problem. Black literally only has 2 other moves. It's not like we have a lot of choice. Dude, I know. That's the thing. We've played a million of these Nimzos, and I feel like I can't surprise you anymore. You know, a funny move here that black could probably play, although I'm sure it's not great, would be like bishop e7. I wonder how bad this is. Bishop e7, e4. I mean, I would assume like d5, but there's no gains to d5 at all. How bad is this? Let's see, cd5. That's unbelievable. There's no games. cd5, cd5, e5. So knight fd7 loses a pawn to knight takes d5. c5. Terrible position. Anyway, we don't need to look at this. I'm just joking around. You gotta either play the Benoni or play the Queen's Gambit. You know, those are your only other valid options. Yeah. I mean, this, you know, anything like this is bad. This is bad. Everything else is bad. I mean, a6 is bad. Take your pick. Knight c6 is bad. I mean, like, literally every other move. You know, every other move allows you to play e4. You know, that's the problem. Like, what move doesn't allow you to play e4? Ripon Bansal is like bishop e4. Context. Context. We need context. You just like come on the stream and yeah, the point is moves other than bishop b4. We want to have context when we answer. So anyway, bishop b4, queen c2. I've played everything under the conceivable horizon of possibilities here. I've literally played every move, almost. I'm saving my... Alright, I'm saving one more last try for next time. Maybe tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but Sunday. If you play me again, Sumaher, the next time I play someone on a classical Nimzo, I'm going to try something different. Alright, if I can remember, that's the struggle. Welcome everyone to the stream. Don't forget to subscribe. Princess Chess 64. We just missed a hype train last Sunday, so let's do a hype train. We played c5, d5, b6 a lot, I know. That's a risky line for black, and I don't trust it. This line, the b6 line is very risky. It's not a trustworthy variation. So this time I decided to play my Atzel Gergo over the board novelty. Well, Repun, if your game is 4th and it's already late here, you should have submitted it earlier. You can always watch the replay. Or you could, yeah, you could bribe me or something. Otherwise, you just watch the replay. It's no problem. I don't want to have to, like, time him out again. His behavior is sketchy lately. He made me angry the other day with something. My 2300 lichess friend plays b6 line a lot. It has bad score. Yeah, it's risky, and it's losing its surprise value. No, I mean b6 is not a reputable variation. You've got d5, c5, and castles, and knight c6 is kind of shady. Funny that the computer doesn't think c5 is top 3. The Lichess variation makes top 3. Farago Ivan thought this is like a major variation. I thought it was rare. H3 is creative. Okay, so queen e7. This move doesn't have much point. That's the problem with this move. The only idea with this really would be, I guess... What is the only idea here? I mean, the critical question is e4. You were a bit surprised with queen e7. Dude, Atzel Gergo spent like 40 minutes on this position when I played queen e7. You know, in an over-the-board game. He's a time pressure addict like me, but he spent literally at least 35 minutes on white because he had never seen anyone play queen e7 before. That's why I played it. But it's not really a big deal. You know, black, best case scenario, I might transpose to like a d6 variation or something like that. There is almost no independent... There's almost no independent value to this move. It's only strictly to confuse white. So my question would be, turning off the engine here, what happens on e4? I mean, I think this is the big question. I mean, maybe we could just go back to something like d6. You've always got to watch out you don't drop a piece. But after knight c6, d5, this is part of the idea. I mean, I said there's no real independent idea with queen e7, but there kind of is. You know, I mean, there is this idea of the queen being relevant from e7 versus the white king on e1. You see it very clearly here. White has a problem. After c takes d5, I have what? Queen takes e4 check. This is funny. And if you interpose, you lose your queen here. That's so nice. That's so nice. It's a good way to lose a queen. Anyway. Alright, but that's not going to happen. So, the computer also suggested e5. It also suggested e5. Yeah, he played a really brilliant game against me. That was impressive. After spending 35 minutes, he then in time pressure, he came up with absolutely this brilliant pawn sacrifice or something in the middle game. I gotta give him credit. That was I think it might have been the only game I lost in that tournament. Not remembering just now. But, no, there was two. I lost 2 games in that tournament. Alright. I lost to some FIDE master from Ukraine. But e5 looks weird. Computer likes this, though. It's like a Budapest. Anyway, alright, you didn't play e4. So e4 might be critical. White just plays knight f3. Now, I think after my next move, the game will transpose back into a d6 type variation. Yeah, you could also play d5. But I don't think d5 was good on e4 for black. You can play d5 here. I don't think it's great, though. You know, I don't think it makes tons of sense. And I don't really know what I'm doing, you know. I guess d5... if you exchange, maybe my queen has some use here. It's some kind of weird hybrid. So I think d6 is probably best. There's also the possibility of c5. But I just don't really see the point. You could do a lot of different things here. a3. It just looks like white is slightly better. But I was just trying to copy Zlatko Ilinčić, who played a similar variation against me. He just does takes and d6 and b6 and bishop e7, whatever. Knight f3, d6. So now I would be surprised if we didn't transpose some kind of real variation. This is very quiet, though, e3. It was a hot night in Budapest. Hot. You know, again, this is a very quiet move. I mean, obviously you could try to play more sharply with bishop g5. I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. I've seen Yermolinsky, other people play these type of setups for black. It looks totally okay. White is normal slight advantage or something. Um, but here's, quiet. And then, again, I'm like copying Zlatko. This was his idea to primarily do stuff like c5. But I think, maybe more common for black would be just like castles. Castles, and I'm just playing for e5. Maybe this is better. I don't know. But to be honest, I'm not really familiar with what I'm doing here, So I don't know. I expected you to play something like this. I might go back to a5 there. That's what a lichess would do a lot of the time. Just like provoke white and even bring the bishop back to a5. It's not clear. But I can trade. But again, I think this is more compact. Here, and then you just played bishop e2. I mean, this looks really lame, honestly, for white. But it's not bad. And you actually... You just kind of gain the bishop pair later. Again, I probably should just castle. I guess I should castle, and on a3, consider bishop a5. There's actual games here. Oh, Lilienthal Botvinnik, you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, similar. Actually, wow. Maybe we're close to some kind of Botvinnik game with white. You're talking about 100 selected games. Lilienthal versus Botvinnik. There was a game where like it was like this, wasn't there? I don't know. He took with the B pawn. But I mean, obviously you would take with the queen here. You don't have to take with the pawn, you just take with the queen. There's nothing wrong with a3. Although I probably would go to a5. I would consider going to a5. Why do I have to trade necessarily? This is more complicated. Alright. So anyway. So I did b6, you castled, and then I played bishop takes c3. Because I'm afraid my bishop's going to get trapped. If I don't trade on c3 now, my bishop's in serious danger of getting trapped. I'm not sure you can actually trap it, though. Like, for example, bishop here, knight b5. Is it that easy to trap this? Because you could trap it with, like, rook b1, a3, queen a4, this type of stuff. It's a simul, and I had to move fast. I wasn't really thrilled to do this, but alright, whatever. Take, bishop b7, and now this... I thought this was a great move, honestly. This move upset me very deeply. I mean, if you make a routine move here, like b3, I don't think that black's position is too bad. White is at most like slightly better. I thought this was a very strong move. Chipping away at my structure and way more active than like b3. You can see what the engine says. I didn't analyze this position with an engine. But unsurprisingly, like b4 is in the list of top moves. It's actually fighting for top move, according to the engine. But I'm not surprised at all, I don't want to give up my center. Like takes. This is very weak now. I don't like this pawn on d6, and that bishop can come to a3. The other problem is, like, I don't really like any of the situations here. Like, where you take, I take this, the b file is for you. If I take with the d pawn, I lose control, of the e5 square. It's sort of like any of the above, is like good for white. Castles, and you really surprised me now. I don't think that this is necessarily the right plan, but it ended up being good in the game. I expected you to keep, chipping away at me now. So I doubt the computer will say b5. Yeah, the b file, the dark squares, the tension, I don't think b5 is necessarily your best move. It's not a bad move, probably. But I expected something like takes. And if I take this way, there's the file. If I take this way, you have e5 square, diagonal, and also this diagonal, which I'm not really happy about. But objectively, it's probably playable for black. I think most dangerous is this. How am I gonna... I'm gonna have to be very careful about the long diagonal. I guess knight e4, queen c2. I can always play f6 if I have to. Okay, black's position is playable. It's a little passive for me, and there's no, there's no answer to that bishop on b2. But you played this. Like, the computer understands why it has the bishop pair. Understands. Well, the position, the bishop pair is important, and like the ability to keep the position open. Yeah, I mean, like a Sarah one might do d takes c5. It reminds me of a Bogo Indian, actually. D takes c5, opening that diagonal. I probably would have taken with the b pawn. This is a classic Yasser sort of Bogo Indian queenside majority. This is difficult to handle, that queenside majority. Husky, yeah, there's still time if you'd like to submit a game. Thanks for joining us. Guys, please support the stream. Only one gift sub, that's all. Only one cheer from WJ Loof, which I don't even think I thanked him for. Thank you, WJ Loof, for the cheer, 100 bits. Guys, serious analysis. Let's get some support from the hype train. All right. Anyway, I think it's it's not optimal. b5. Okay, I was like, okay, b5 is no big deal, but then I'm looking at a5. I don't really like a4, a5. Okay, we'll hold your game till later, Husky. So I decided to do something kind of weird here. I played a5 myself. Oh no, that was on the next couple moves. All right. I was already considering a5. I played this. You played knight d2. I waited till you played a4. So now e5. Objectively, I don't know. Maybe I should play like for the c file here. Maybe I can try to play against your queen. It looks like objectively black has to try to keep you more like busy in the center with something like d5. This is counterintuitive though, because the dark squares are very weak. I've got to be extremely careful. Mr. Coffee, you call WJ 100. Ready for the hype train. Thank you, Mr. Coffee. When you become a doctor and you're rich, you can make it 500. Dr. Coffee. I'm going to expect bigger donations from Dr. Coffee. So I got Husky. Alright, let's open this up. Am I going to be able to use this? No. Alright, whatever. Husky. Put it in the list. Gotta make a note to self. Alright, everybody. Thanks for your support, or lack thereof. Tazake, thanks for joining us. Alright, so I decided to play e5. I don't know. Computer says a6, but I'm not honestly not enthusiastic about this. a6, a4, take, rook a8. But the problem is, like, eventually white will, like, get a rook over here and take back the a file. It's not a big deal, I'm not sure I want to do that, so I didn't do it. I played this, and now e5. You didn't go to 8 years of Dunkin' Donuts management camps because... Do they have a Dunkin' Donuts management camp? Well, that sounds like a place to hang out. That's where I want to meet my significant other. That sounds kind of funky. A good place to meet your match at Dunkin' Donuts. Where did you meet? Oh, we met at Dunkin' Donuts training camp. Where do you live? We live in the mobile home park. I met her at the Dunkin' Donuts training camp. So anyway, knight d2, e5, d5, Dunkin' Donuts training camp / step program at the local trailer park. a5, I decided to try to lock the queenside. Hey, the queenside's locked. But this comes back to haunt me. White plays a4, rook a e8. This is maybe like a fatal mistake. White is better spatially, but I was very reluctant to play e4 because this diagonal, once opened, cannot be really easily reclosed. Yeah, that's great dating advice, Mr. Coffee. The next person you're trying to impress, you tell them you're a chess player who's not only an employee but a manager at Dunkin' Donuts. The Europeans don't get it, what we're talking about when we say Dunkin' Donuts. They know Starbucks. I don't know. I knew someone who claimed that Dunkin' Donuts was in Europe, but I don't think there's ever been a Dunkin' Donuts in Europe, right? It's strictly in, like, North America. I swear to God, Bijak, I thought you just said I had the idea of bringing Burger King to the Cleed side. And I've got these, like, fast food places in my mind. I had the idea of bringing Burger King to the Queen side. No, I don't think there's any need for that. But I didn't want to bring... I know, I don't have an attack here. I mean, this diagonal becomes very hard to deal with. Maybe black's okay. Here, knight e5. You know, in retrospect, maybe I should have tried it. Bring my bishop back, and then just try to hold it. I mean, you could do crazy stuff. You know, you go full on Shuba Mihai on me. I mean, this comes over here. It's like f4, and it's an illustrative game from Dynamic Chess Strategy. I'm not sure you have to migrate your king to the queen side, but I get it. Like, it makes sense. If you could migrate your king to the queen side, it's like totally safe. You know, nothing can happen to you on the queen side. But that's not the case for me. Rook a e8. I'm blissfully ignorant here with rook on a to e8. You gave your notice at work, so next year I'll be a bum. So any job title work with me. Princess Chess, you can do it. You can become a Burger King or which is better, Burger King or Dunkin' Donuts? What do you guys think? Become a manager at a fast food franchise. And then when you go on a date, you got to remember, never tell them where you work or what you do for a hobby. In my experience. But this was like blissfully ignorant. I'm like, oh, everything's fine now. I'll just play rook on a to e8, bishop c8, and then we're just golden. You know, I'm fine. But watch this. Bishop e2, here, the plan. And then you played f3, okay? And now I didn't know what to do. I have no place to move my knight. Knight h5 allows g4. I'm not sure about that. So I need to move my knight. My rook is there. King h8 looks stupid. I don't really want to put my king on the diagonal. So the only move, aside from h5, which weakens the dark squares, is h6. Now I would be very surprised if this is h6 isn't black's best move. Come on, h6, h6. H5 is the best move. Dude, there it is. Dude! H6. H6. H5. H6. Stop. Anyway, it was on H6. I mean, black's in trouble here. You know, it's a nice game by white. H6. Knight B3. And now... it was a simul, you know. But anyway, I should play Queen D8. I get out of the way. I guard against this secret sacrifice. And white has a clear advantage, but I'm still alive. I mean, I'm not even sure Knight B3 is a good move. It's like a one-trick pony where you're putting your knight on B3 to threaten the sacrifice on A5, but otherwise it's a bad square. This knight is probably better placed on D2, and you should actually be focusing on the king's side. Yeah, this is actually a mistake. It's a one-trick pony, it's a one-move threat, and I should have just played Queen D8 and then shut you down. You know, and now white is better, but how do you break through? You think the sack is bad? Well, I think I shouldn't have even allowed it. So, I just blissfully played this, takes. But I mean, this is a totally valid sacrifice, I think. You know, you could say the computer says it's bad, but I mean, I've made this sort of sacrifice like zillions of times in Blitz. Usually in the A6 Slav. I mean, pretty much any time you can sacrifice a piece for two connectors in an A6 Slav, King's Indian, closed position like this nature, you know, I think maybe it's not the best move, but it's playable anyway. I don't think it's unsound. The computer says white is slightly better, you know. I don't think that it's a mistake. I'm still worse. But I figured with queens off the board, I could probably hold. You know, the point is I can sacrifice a piece back. I can sacrifice a piece back, and Princess Chess said they're quitting their job, and I said get a job. So when you become a Burger King or what is it, Dunkin' Donuts manager, you'll be making the big bucks. Then you can donate to the stream. Those will be the days where we'll really be rich, when Mr. Coffee is a doctor and Princess Chess is managing a Dunkin' Donuts. Then we'll really... You don't understand why Engine says it's a blunder. Well, it's a blunder because it's not your best move, apparently. You probably had better, you know, just focusing on the king side with a more classical approach, like F4. As I said, Shuba Mihai, illustrative game number 47. Oh, my move is a blunder. My move's a blunder. Well, I think I should have played Queen D8, stopping your sack. Oh, Queen D8 is a blunder? Well, this is pure calculation. Maybe there's something here I had better. Maybe I had to attack or something. But it's a simul and I don't have time. And I don't know. I guess I should try to focus on some sort of kingside attack. Yeah, Queen G5. I honestly didn't think this was a big deal. What, I'm going to magically play Bishop H3? And even that's not a threat. You will gain the PhD title in 2 years, which will not increase my wage whatsoever. Dr. Tazek. But wait until the Turkish currency tanks even more. I don't know how I'm better if we trade queens on D8. No, I think I would have had a good chance to draw. I think you should keep the queens on. You're right. I think I could have held if you trade queens. All I have to do is try to sacrifice a piece back. And now I can just blockade. But at one point I left my F5 pawn hanging. Okay, this is a very complicated game. I'm not sure you should have pushed the pawn so quickly. I have no idea. But here my F5 pawn's hanging. It's not a problem, right? Because you have bishop takes F5, I have knight takes D5. For a minute, I was like, oh, it's a blunder. No. Here, here. Okay, I guarded. So what's the evaluation around here? I mean, I figure it's a draw. The computer sees a nice move. I never saw this like lateral rook move. If I check the queen trade, wow, the engine likes it. But again, this is some kind of like forced variation it's calculating. A5. I mistakenly assumed I could just sacrifice a piece, but it may not be so easy. So A6, bishop A8, bishop C3, apparently it's not so easy. I can't really erect a proper blockade. It looks like you're actually winning. Queen D8 is a blunder. I mean, I figured you would be reluctant to trade queens, but this is a problem. I cannot set up a good blockade in time. Yeah, it was good to trade queens. Counterintuitive. This is though I was pissed I shouldn't lose. I have a solid blockade now. And I mean, I'm not sure E4 is a good move for you. Objectively. But the position is so complicated and I have so little time. My instinct was to keep it closed. And I offered a draw around there and you declined, which was reasonable. But I don't think that white should be winning here. Honestly. It's too closed. Both sides are closed. My assumption that it's a draw with correct play. Who is challenging me? Why are they challenging me? Who would challenge me to bullet? What are you thinking? King H1, Rook A8. I have too many blockaders on A8. Yeah, he was like really trying to beat me any way he could. But the time was low. Yeah, I mean, you really like took risks to try to beat me, and it looks like black is actually better. And here I decided to sacrifice the exchange, although it's not absolutely necessary. It seems to be a mistake to do it the way I did it. There's no time to calculate this. It's too complicated. I thought I was fine here, but the engine says you're winning. So it's interesting that if I do bishop c8, I'm okay because this knight square opens up. The idea is to take with a pawn, hit his rook, and then get a really good square for my knight on e5. But I had like a minute left for 20 games or something. I can't play in such time pressure. It's better to take with the pawn and get my knight e5. I didn't have time to think. I'm just reacting. So at this point, it's like a bullet game for me. And a blitz game for white. It's just too hard. So finally, we got to that interesting position toward the end where I thought I was okay here. I missed knight h5. And now I'm desperate. And I really thought I was okay here. For sure. I was like, okay, we're out of the woods. Everything's okay. It's a perpetual check. Whatever. I can't lose. But it's way more complicated than that. I was terrified the queen comes in here. And this is where I blundered. I didn't see the idea of like queen c4, queen f1 check. So if I take this, I've got the threat of queen d5 and queen f1. And black is fine. I mean, he gambled, trying to kind of rush me in time pressure, and it worked. There are tricks with a8. Mr. Slow talked about knight takes d5. Doesn't work. This doesn't work at all. It's totally lost. Yeah, so I just take on c4. And it looks like it might be a draw somehow. Although objectively, your a pawn isn't going anywhere. I mean, black might be better now because I'm taking your d5, and if g5, just take here, I'm winning. All right, good game, man. You know, after this, I fell apart. Bishop c8, king h2, queen f4 check, queen g3. Trading loses. And then I took, but it was too late. And I thought I could hold it together, but I can't. It's no way I could stop you from getting in. I was surprised that there was a win here for white. But he just finds a way in. I can't stop this a-pawn and stop his incursion here. And now it's just winning. Nah, good, an interesting game. Astrobait's up next. Astrobait Grace, guys. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, for the 100 bits earlier. Thanks, Princess Chess, for stopping by. Don't forget to give some subs. Guys, we're doing analysis for subscribers here on my stream. So we've got Astrobait, Gomez Garcia, Ripun, Morales, VIP, Astrobait VIP, and Husky submitted a game just now. Yeah, good game, Bijak. So this is Astrobait. He's playing a lot of 30-minute games now. Astrobait e4, c6, d4, d5, e5. Advanced Caro-Kann. Objectively, probably white's best move against Caro-Kann. Your game was played... Oh, it was over the board game. So, Husky, is this like one of your first over the board games? Are you serious? You had literally never played over the board chess? Your first game, wow. Unbelievable. That's going to be interesting. Alright, so we got Astrobait here playing e5. The problem with the advanced variation for white is that it's very closed. If you don't like closed positions, this move doesn't really suit you. It can open up, it can be very tactical, but it is usually closed for a large period of time. So if it doesn't appeal to you, the closed position, I recommend playing like either like the Panov with c4 or going into more mainline stuff. Another good, you know, reasonable variation for white is the fantasy f3. I think f3 is decent. And there's also, of course, like the Astrobait used to play this. But the two knights variation is okay for white as well. But anyway, alright, e5, bishop f5. I feel like bishop f5 is more correct than c5, but c5 is very popular. Let's see the statistics here. Let's see the statistics. Bishop f5, 36% wins for white, 23% wins for black. Look how close it is with c5. c5 has like 1% more wins for white, but way less sample size. It's amazing how close those two moves are. That's crazy. Let's see the Astrobait database, guys. Are you ready for this? The Astrobait as white database. Whoa, not the best, but he's getting the hang of it slowly. Astrobait as white has 42% wins, 56% losses, and almost no draws against bishop f5. 30% wins, 63% losses, with a few more draws against c5. Against e6, he's also struggled. And against f6, he's 0 for 3. Oof. This is like the anti-Astrobait system. That's like a joke move. I actually suggested that, I think in my Weird Wednesday stream. Damn, if you want to beat Astrobait, you just play f6 against his advanced Caro-Kann. The secret anti-Astrobait. He's also faced knight a6. What about this, Teze? The 3 a.m. Caro-Kann. No Asterbate games. But Magnus Carlsen played that, as you see here. Katarina Leno against Magnus, back in 2004 when he was quite young. Pre-GM title, maybe. I don't know. He was 25-67, actually. Wow. Maybe he had the GM title. He probably already had the GM title. Alright, anyways. Back to the Asterbate database. Bishop f5, c4. This move is not considered to be... This c4 is not considered to be like a topical variation. But Asterbate used to play... What did you used to play? Something different? Did you ever try this? That would be really up your alley, the Kuprejcik. You know, Asterbate, maybe you should play this like Kuprejcik move, Bishop e3. No, he does that against the French. Okay, I'm thinking of something else. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's like e4, isn't it? e4, e6, d4, d5. No, that doesn't make sense. e4, c5, c3. Yeah, here, right? This is Kuprejcik system. Bishop e3. Kuprejcik. I'm getting confused with the Caro-Kann. Okay. But anyway, like, this is a serious variation. I mean, Bishop e3 is an actual variation. It's close to... Asterbate likes Bishop e3 in general, and this is close to the Knight d2, Knight b3 thing they do, because they later play Bishop e3. c4 is his new go-to move. e6. And now Knight c3. And now Black played... Wow. So let's see. Asterbate has done a little better here with White. Bishop b4 has been his biggest problem. That is a mainline move. Although, I don't know if I like Bishop b4 personally. Schieberspieler should know this, actually. Schieberspieler, you know, is Bishop b4 like the main move here for Black? Do you play that? I mean, like, c4 is not popular. I never really know what to play here. I don't know, I guess Knight e7. You have no idea. Oh. Yeah. No, it's like... Okay, Bishop b4 is a rare move. It's pretty rare. I thought it was played more often. Knight e7 is the main move. It's also possible to take on c4, but it's not like... You know, you don't want to take on c4 if White's going to play Bishop takes c4 right away. Anyway, alright, the Asterbate the Asterbate variation. Dude, c5? What? No, here. c5. Wow. This is a very psycho-aggressive move, c5. How does this guy think he'd get away with c5? You played c4, he played c5. Put him in the asylum. We'll put him in the asylum with Rubinstein, who was obsessed with c4, c5, and the Queen's Gambit. Alright. Okay, it's a move, but Black has to be very careful about this diagonal. You're also, like, putting pressure on d5. I mean, first off, take. That looks like a good... You know, a good thing for White. He's chipping away at Black's control on d5. I don't see a problem with c takes d. Asterbate apparently played g4 in another game, which is really wild. Oh, that's actually this game. Wow. Yeah, I think if it were me, I would play cd. It opens up the bishop diagonal here, chipping away at the center. Black could even play c takes d. Doesn't look safe, but I'm just saying. But I mean, Black's crazy to play c5. This is a very risky move. Black needs to get developed. On the daily streaming. Yo, what's up? Yeah, so this is a very aggressive move by black, and then a psycho-aggressive move by white. But I don't know, man. You might be spreading yourself a little thin here, to be honest. I mean, you can't do everything. Like c4, d4, f4, g4, a4. You're gonna like attack with every pawn on every side of the board. The lichess database, 2 games, and both played by Asterbait. What? No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Are you serious? No. There's 11 games here. No, this is the Asterbait. This is the Asterbase. It's the Acer base. Yeah, we use the Acer base now in preparation. You're still using lichess? I use the Acer base. Dude, G4 is really wild. I guess we should momentarily look at bishop E4. That looks bad, right? Take D5. I mean, this is a really strange looking Alyekin. I don't know what's going on, but I don't trust black's position. So I assume bishop G6 is right. And now knight F3. But again, I mean, you played C4 to attack black's center. And both games here you developed with knight F3. Can we go back a second? Because I'm not sure how much we really, how much we really benefit from G4. Like, if we just take toward the center. You played this in another game. Asterbait has a game here. Take toward the center. I want to just do some damage to black's position here somehow. I mean, this is anti-developmental. And black could play like D4 maybe. I remember Asterbait, didn't you have some crazy game like that? Like D4, knight B5, queen A5 check, bishop D2. And the knight's like coming in there. Like, I don't know, man. This looks... Even this move is valid for white, honestly. You're just starting to win his like D5 pawn. The one thing I know is the center is important. I don't like G4. Let's see what the Oracle says. I bet it's not G4. Yeah, you see? G4 is third best move. Wow, and computer wants to do that crazy bishop E4 move. Oh my god. Yeah, that looks horrible. No, you should just think about your last move. Your point was C4. You're putting pressure consistently on the center. So just continue. I think this is good. Plus you open up the bishop on this diagonal. Unbelievably, like, G4 here is the best move according to Stockfish. Maybe I missed something. Take D5. I mean, okay, white's pawns are all, unsupported by pieces, but black has 0 development as well. I can't imagine this is really okay for black. Alright, so he goes here. I mean, you might as well just... we might as well just go H4. No. If you go H4, he's going to start chopping you. Start chopping. You absolutely prefer white. Why wouldn't you prefer white? But I'm not sure I like G4, objectively. And there's definitely something weird about G4 and knight F3. I mean, normally when you play setups with G4, you're going like here, here, keeping the F pawn in motion so you can play for F5. It's not normal to play... Morales also plays the advance. It's not normal to play the knight in front of the F pawn when you play G4. You want the pawns to be fluid. I mean, F5 is the pawn structure advance that you're usually hoping for in the long run. But this position is far too open to do something like that. And that's why G4 is wrong, I think. The basic bottom line is it's too open to do this, you know? I think it's better to just concentrate on straightforward control of the center. Anyways. 97. Okay. That's a sensible move by black. And now the totally random bishop g5. I don't know what to play now for you. I really don't know what to play. Maybe takes on c5? I mean, what is he doing? Knight d7? Like, I'm playing for smothered mate, I guess. I wouldn't be the only one. Asterbait would definitely do this. 9 out of 10 moms support knight b5. Family Feud says d takes c5. Let's see. Oof, I'm on today. That's the best move. Bishop g5 was a close second. Bishop g5 was close second. The nice thing about this, yeah, is after h6, you don't get hit by g5. He reactionary h6, bishop h4, haha, you can't play g5. And now knight on b, c6. So now if you take on d5, he can't take with the knight or the queen. But he can play, I don't know, knight b4. That looks like rubbish. Or not. Yeah, bishop b5 check is a bit of a problem. Probably. So you should again just take on d5, I think. You took on c5. This is also interesting. And now black is in some trouble. Maybe it's time for a6. Any a6 fans out there? Because I'm personally not real excited about the possibility of knight b5, knight d6 for black. There might be some salvation in like queen a5 check though. The guy does go knight b4. Wow. He goes knight b4 himself. So I think here looks logical. It looks like after a6 black's okay. Instead he plays this, which is pretty bad. Check. Here, forced. There's a massive problem with knight c2 check. But black's dropping his queen. Oof. Yeah, losing the queen is a bit of a problem. So the guy just has to go back and admit he made a mistake, right? But then you've got knight b5. And now he's like losing material or putting his king on d7. Good luck with that. That's kind of a problem. So I would anticipate like queen d7, knight d6 check, king d8 or something like that. Nice variation. That looks completely okay for black. Yeah, it sucks to be black here. Black's toast. Check here, takes, bye-bye. He did get the rook on a1, and the king went to d2. So it's not over. Asterbait maybe made a mistake here. He played cd. I mean, is that really the best move? I would be inclined to think like bishop here. Because on cd he has like rook takes d8. I don't love that. I mean, at this point, black has, what? He still doesn't have enough material. A knight and a rook for the queen. King e3. Dude, that's mental. King e3. d6 is kind of strong. Oof. But black has... Schieberspieler, you missed bishop e7. Triple exclam, hanging on, and preparing the castle. You missed it. Asterbait saw through. He saw this in advance. He was like, no, I'm not going to do d6 and fall for that stupid bishop e7 trick. Of course I'm not serious. Schieberspieler understands the value of protect the passed pawn. Schieberspieler, Asterbate has never queened a pawn in his life. You understand that, right? You know he's never actually queened or promoted one of his pawns. Like, protected passed pawns, that doesn't really factor. He doesn't win like that. This is crazy, though. I mean, black can take on d5 and threatening this. No, I'm not even sure what's going on here anymore. Maybe white's still winning, but you have to be very, very careful. Probably bishop e5, preventing d4. But, like, there is definitely potential for white to screw this up now. Black couldn't resist check. Entertaining. Though, I love this adventure. E takes d5, now here. Yeah, black missed the one window of opportunity, it looks like. ED, probably not enough, though. Asterbate's winning anyway. Oh, wait, c5's hanging with check. Oh my god. Yeah, Asterbate, I don't think king e3 is that hot. He does have, like, bishop takes c5 check. Now you would go to f4. Now you would have to take. And now you would play something like that. But now he gets away. If he gets away, though, yeah, this is hanging now. Asterbate's probably winning anyway. He's still winning anyway. Alright, but at least black would have gotten his king out of the center. It's over. Nice move. And he's trapped like a rat. I love the king on f4. Threatening queen a8, mate. I love this king. That was awesome. Oof. It's too much material. Double knights. And black's still going. It wasn't real clean like the ending there. Now you have knight e6 check. You missed knight e6 check. Dude. Astermate doesn't see the mates he used to see. He's not focusing on his mates anymore. Knight e6, knight e6, rook c8. Game over. Or knight e6, king g8, queen g7. You've been losing your mate, your natural mate ability, Asterbate, as you become more sophisticated. This was very shaky technique. And a king g4. Very risky. I would go back to g2. Anyway, it's over. Eventually. Finally. That was entertaining, man. Though, I have to say. Even if not accurate. Definitely one of the most entertaining games I've seen this. Maybe the most entertaining game I've seen this week. Alright. GM Vladimirovich versus Gomez Garcia. This is game 3. Never change, Asterbate. Just slightly modify. WJ Luke says never change. Just slightly modify yourself. Don't change. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but there was Rajabov's account on ICC used to be Vladimirovich. So this guy is like stealing his name. I don't think that it's Rajabov. I thought I remember it was another player, another random grandmaster. But you can't steal his name, you know. GM Sparkle Horse. Okay, I stole a non-chess player's name to be my account here, but you don't steal other chess players' name. Vladimirovich was Rajabov. It's Andreikin. Well, maybe he is like Vladimirovich Andreikin or something. I'll forgive him if it's real name. If it's his real name, I'll forgive him. But otherwise, he's stealing Rajabov's. ICC handle. Alright, so this is against J. Gomez Garcia. D4, knight f6, c4, g6. I got the Asterbate database on. Alright, we're going to turn that off for now. He is Vladimirovich, a Russian chess grandmaster. Thank God for Wikipedia. Chessopedia. So, alright, we'll forgive him. His real patronymic is Vladimirovich. Bishop g7, e4, d6, knight f3, castle, bishop e2, e5, d5, and then a5, mainline Petrosian system, castles. Now this move is a bit unusual. Bishop g5 is the main move here. As I lost once to George Danner, there are certain setups where it's actually to white's benefit to delay castling. Like you can trick black and get away with getting like a superior position. So basically, it's usual to play bg5 first. This is also like a line. Andreykin is a great player. I'm not telling him what to play, but I mean, there's a reason why bishop g5 is the main line. It's probably the best move. Petrosian. Anyway, castles. Never, you know, not to say like there is some value to white's setup. Reshevsky played a lot of these type of things with white. My friend David Vigorito did pretty well with this type of setup. They do like g3, knight h4, knight g2. You know, it's kind of a weird, funky positional setup for white. White has some space advantage, and he just sort of holds it, you know, and slowly tries to negate your counterplay. But what does black play now? Knight a6. Okay, this is not the only move, but the most normal, I would say. You can obviously play knight h5. As I said, g3. A Reshevsky Vigorito-esque. Knight e8 is more passive. This is extremely sort of passive, but I mean, I would consider it. Breaking with f5 is a plan. The problem is white will have like knight g5 at some point and come in on your white squares. It's not so simple. Okay, anyway, knight a6 is fine, probably. Now he plays bishop e3, so that's a specific move. Allowing knight g4. I've definitely had this. So we've transposed. It almost looks like we're transposing to a knight a6. We're transposing to a knight a6 classical. Kind of. Except a5 is in. I don't think there's any gains in the Acer base here. Knight g4 is tempting, but I'm not sure it's necessarily the only good move. What else can we do? Well, I mean, knight h5 is definitely a move. Would have Fedorov? Was that? No. No big names here with black at all. Knight g4 is most popular. Okay, so it's like a Gligorich. Knight a6, bg5, and now we have an option to play queen d7 or queen e8. I once had this like weird game with Walter Brown where I drew, but I had a kind of dubious position where I did something like this, and I remember it distinctly because Brown did something weird in response. We literally had some kind of strange game where it was like h4 for white. He like just defended his bishop on g5 with h4. That wouldn't really fly here though. Black would have h6. I don't think that's a good move for white. Like theoretically you could play bishop f6. Also queen e8 has to be considered. Because there's no knight b5, like attacking your c7, it's protected. My assumption here is that white has something like knight d2, This looks like another blitz game I had with Walter. Something like this, where he like took on g4. Very similar position I had against Brown in blitz. Like bishop takes g4, f takes g4. But it's hard, to do anything. White's position is very solid. But I'm surprised here in this database that only f6 has been played. Even queen d7 is a viable move, I would think, for black. Let's see what the computer says. See, Sladgie knows what he's talking about. You can't trust Alexei Fedorov. All of these moves are possible. It's very interesting. I have a lot of experience on the black side Kings Indians. I mean, it's surprising to me that like there's 29 games here and black played f6 in every single one. That's kind of like WTF moment. I mean, this shows that people aren't thinking, they're just like regurgitating. It's like the London system. The computer says that literally the best move for black is bishop f6. But only I would come up with that idea. I understand what I'm doing, for those of you that don't believe me. The other possibility of queen e8, I'm very surprised that no one has played this in this position. There's nothing wrong with queen e8. I mean, it's a totally valid move. Very odd. 29 out of 29 games, black played f6 in every game. Anyway, here we go. So white has three options really. Bishop d2, bishop c1, and bishop h4. I was just looking at pretty much the same position the other day. I think bishop h4 is the most aggressive. I lost to Robert Marcus really badly with black in a game where I played something like this against him back in 2005. This has to be a shallow database issue. I'm 100% sure I've seen this position with queen e8 in a book. Well, don't forget, like, there's a lot of positions that are like a tiny bit different. Cheesemate. I mean, queen e8 in very similar positions is definitely like main line. But remember that, yeah, the database is somewhat shallow. It's also only like players who are both over 2200. So 2199 versus Magnus Carlsen is weeded out. Yeah, if you go to chess, I hate saying it, but the evil chess base and use their products, there will be more games there, no doubt. You can't use the lichess Opening Explorer as professional database. Sadly, though, there isn't really a good alternative that I can recommend to anybody, unless like Chess Assistant is still in business. I just remember losing. There's free database on the evil site. Well, I wouldn't know if that would be that much better than this one. I mean, there should be an alternative for professionals aside from the evil chess base, is what I'm saying. I would sooner support Chess Assistant if they still exist than that German chess database company. Not anything against Germans, just happens that ChessBase is based in Germany. But they're very dubious and controversial. And they steal chess programs and market them as their own products, which is illegal and immoral. Anyway, so f6, bishop h4, right. So Andreykin plays here bishop c1. Notice not a lot of games. I mean, bishop d2 is way more common. This guy is just playing. He's playing a simul, But I mean, there are some rare examples where this bishop might come out this diagonal. But in general, the main thing, I guess, would be the knight coming back to d2. But it's a typical move. Now black played f5. f5 is not forced. When you play f5, it's aggressive, but it's also risky because you weaken the g5 square. So my assumption here is that black has alternative knight h6. Somewhat passive, but playable. You could play knight h6 with the idea of coming back to f7. White's setup isn't very aggressive either. What's he gonna do? You know, like knight d2. What is Andreykin gonna play here? A3. You know, none of these moves are a big deal. A3. Okay. You know, White's a little better. Rook b1. I mean, so knight h6 is definitely possible. Here, somebody said that Ben Feingold has the take on f5 rule. I think it was move 11, because I don't watch Ben, but it's not a bad rule. You know, Feingold said, always take on f5. I have this friend from Serbia, Grandmaster Lichess. He's sort of made a more general version of that. Zlatko's thing is always take. But this is just a joke, of course. You know, always take, but take on f5 is the safest way for White to approach this, probably. But it's not the most aggressive. White plays knight g5. And there's a game here with Strikovich, a very old game from 1991. I've never faced him, only in Blitz online. Yugoslavian or Serbian Grandmaster. Now we have a bit of an issue with the knight coming into g5. f2 is solidly protected. So I'm not sure what we can do here. We're going to have to let the knight come in there. So he plays this. And now, I mean, obviously, like, knight e6 is a possibility for Andreykin. Black's white squares will be weak. Bishop e6, pawn e6, the whole complex of white squares are slightly weakened. But I'm not sure if, like, you can just lose a pawn. You know, I mean, knight c5 and this looks like it's gone. So it's not always possible to sacrifice that pawn like that. So Andreykin just plays pawn takes pawn, following the Feingold rule. G takes f, and now Sammy Reshevsky, the art of positional play, highly recommended. Classic blockading move, f4. This is freezing Black's kingside attack with the pawns, you know. Now e4, not forced. A lot of times, like, you don't necessarily want to play that because the pawns become fixed. I will say one thing. This e4 type of thing is usually better if Black has a pawn on c5. If Black has a pawn on c5, White cannot use the d4 square as an outpost. This is an important feature to remember. Oftentimes, like, e4 can be just better for White. I mean, if White plays like king h1, h3, g4, like your whole, he's just gonna undermine this chain with the classic sort of g4 thing. Hungarian Grandmaster Faroga Ivan, like a master of this with White, for example. Black is like, oh, I've got a protected pass pawn. There's a game here from 2019. Wow. That's incredible. This exact position. Bishop e3. Now h6. The knight goes to a kind of crappy square. But maybe f2 is not so bad. If he could get it back to maybe d1. Actually, f2 is good because he supports g4. Knight d7. I'm not down with knight d7. I don't like the look of knight d7. I mean, this guy is going to kill you with a g4 break. I mean, to be frank, like, when we go back here to this position, I'm not really in a hurry to play e4. But your position is... I mean, you don't have a piece to capture on e5. Bobby Fischer might want to capture with the piece on e5. I don't know. I don't know about e4. Maybe Black should just suck it up and find another move here. White is definitely better. Strikovich played queen e7. That's crazy. You want to see something crazier? That's crazy. Strikovich's opponent from 1991 had the same position with Black 2 years earlier. How is that even possible? That's unbelievable. The statistical chances of that? Move 14 in a random position the guy had 2 years earlier, the same guy that played the white side against Strikovic had the same position with black 2 years earlier. The chances of this statistically are like 1 in like 100,000. But I like this better, keeping the pawns fluid. E4 here, blockading, and now the knight goes to F2, and he's going to annihilate you with G4. I don't like this though. You can't go away from G4. Black's only chance now is to like prepare for this tidal wave as best you can. Knight F2, Queen E7, I don't know, H3, Rook A E8, King H1, and I mean, here it comes. I hope you're ready for it. That's going to be a very dangerous break, and Black's probably in trouble. I mean, you could try to play something different, like, for example, Queen E8. Maybe Queen E8, okay? And then on H3, you can try to play H5 and pray. You know, pray that you can survive. That would be my best hope for Black here. You know, hope that maybe here you can stop him from playing G4. Because that's how he's going to kill you. Knight D7 seems to go away from the area. And White's... Whoa, what just happened here? H6, Knight H3, sorry, here. He didn't play Knight F2 till later. Okay, now Queen E7, Rook G1, and obviously threatening G4. Andreykin plays Queen D2. And then Rook F6, and this is coming. I guess this square is a little dangerous. If White plays like H3 and takes with the pawn, the queen can show up on H4. So he might just play G4 straight up in some positions. But this is a very awkward position for Black. Bishop D4, Rook G6. Now Knight on F D1, maneuvering to blockade. Check, Queen G7. And now White declines the trade of queens here. Interesting. I mean, I think that White's advantage is still significant, regardless of the queens trading or not. But I wonder, what about this? You know, I mean, isn't White just better here? Peter doesn't agree. It says, like, equal. Wow. So Queen F2. This might be more centralized, but he wanted to keep, like, G2 protected. Here. I forgot to mention that Black is J. Gomez Garcia. Bishop D3, Knight takes D3, Queen D2, Bishop D7, and now Rook AF1, and now he's better against the 2700. Black is probably better now, although it looks difficult to break through. I don't think you can actually break through. But White is on the defensive now without the ability to play G4. He doesn't have a way to like try to win, and you have access to the D4 square. This is amazing. Interesting recapture. Why would White take the B pawn? I kind of doubt it, you know, honestly. Oh, he had to because he was going to lose the B2 pawn. Alright. Takes, and now... I mean, Black should be okay here. If you have to, you play H5. I don't see how Black is really worse. At best, you know, he's going to, like, draw. Computer is giving Black +2, actually, on H5. Bishop E8. You know, you got to be careful of this. So he has like +2 against 2700 in a simul, and then played Bishop E8, like dropping his F5 pawn. H5 and Black is better. But I certainly would be confident that Black can't lose now. Andreykin kind of went wrong mysteriously there. Bishop e8, knight takes f5, and black's just lost. A really strange blunder. But white never really did anything, you know? He just kind of sat there and never even played g4. And you hung your f5 pawn. But it was kind of disappointing. I mean, black had a good game. The opening, though, I don't trust. You know, I don't think that black's position was right. Here, white should be better at some point. I think when I saw black play h6, knight h3 here, king h1, knight c5. I mean, first of all, maybe white should play a3 at some point to stop that knight b4. Yeah, I mean, white's got to be better here. What happened at this point? It's like +3. He should have just played g4. So Andreykin just hesitated, you know. He just hesitated too much. This g4 was quite strong. Alright, next game. Ripun versus Bewildered Pumpkin. I guess he was bewildered after this. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Don't hesitate to donate. Support the stream with a donation via Streamlabs or PayPal. It's not easy being a starving chess player, so I really appreciate your support. Those of you that do support the stream, the beer fund and all that. WJ Loof. E4, C6. We have another advanced Caro-Kann. Okay. Bishop f5, and now the more topical h4. This is not a move that I've ever played. I'm a little more circumspect, but I don't know the advanced Caro-Kann from the white side really. But I was playing queen b6 with black to avoid main lines. I've been experimenting with that and a6. I like a6 now. h6 and h5 are the main moves. So his opponent plays the main line. White plays bishop d3. But this move is very popular now. Also, yeah, Caro-Kann thematic stream. Perfect for you, Schieberspieler. Asterbait should consider this. He likes pushing his kingside pawns anyway. Seriously, Asterbait, maybe you should play h4 and then do c4. This variation is sharper because you got like the bishop there on g5 and a big fat weakness on g5. I don't like playing h5 with black. That's why I've been playing a6 myself, a sort of weird sideline. And h6 doesn't necessarily seem sufficient as well because white plays g4. I played this a lot, and it's also black has no space here. It's very unpleasant. So anyway, critical variation: h4, h5, bishop d3. But seriously, c4 is the more popular move maybe. Bishop d3 now. I'm sure Schieberspieler knows this, as I think I've even seen one of his games. Bishop takes d3, queen d3. What about pawn takes? I mean, is that just lame? The point is, like, you want the queen, you know, here to swing across. Queen takes, e6, and now knight f3. But that interferes with the queen swing. I think we're going to transpose to Vita Levante versus X, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the game, right. The game against Move 11. Exactly, Schieberspieler. Right. You played a training game or something with Move 11. So apparently, like, this is main line, but there's things about sacrificing this b pawn. Like, both sides have to be really well versed in the theory here. Knight d2. It's extremely sharp. Sacrificing this pawn on b2. There's no way I'm taking that pawn on b2. But I wouldn't play this for black. What would Schieberspieler do? Schieberspieler would play queen a5 check. Queen a5 check. Knight d2. Queen a6, right? But that's 6 Queen a5 check. One move earlier. Oh, I see. So you don't play e6. Oh, this is a different line, and this has a good score. So you actually don't need to play e6. This is a better score. This has the best score for black. So we'll have another Schieberspieler masterpiece. Bishop d3, queen d3, so e6, bishop g5, but instead knight f3. And now c5, which is actually probably okay for black. I think I've probably played something like this. c5 looks okay here. I think knight f3 is not considered a big deal. Obviously, if queen b5 check, queen d7, and white has nothing, he's probably still maybe equal. So this is a problem for white. You know, what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, like, I would consider c4, but it looks too slow. I already don't really like white's position, to be honest. Also, like, takes, bishop takes, queen b5 check, knight d7. Wow, Vityugov actually played this with white. This has got to be a good pawn sacrifice. Black's fine. Instead of rook b8, I think black just plays knight e7. No? Why not knight e7? Why do we even need to attack the queen here? It's a better move. It's funny that Vityugov 2700 would go into such a crappy line. White has a lot of weaknesses and no development, really. It looks like 97 is better. I remember looking at stuff like this. That's not a good variation for white. So Ripun played c3. I mean, this is normal, but it's nothing. You know, white has nothing. It's passive. So with c3, you now have no breaks. You have no f5. You have, you know, you've played c3, so c4 is inherently, you know, slow, and you have a dark square bishop that's not that great. Norbert Tamás, player I don't know, but it sounds Hungarian. Bishop e3, the Aster mate. This is clearly more active, but I guess there's a question of what happens after queen b6. Norbert is not really happy about his b pawn here. If you're going to sacrifice the b pawn, you don't want to play c3. You know, so something like this, it's like a London. You don't want to have wasted your time playing c3 if you're going to sacrifice this pawn on b2. It would be, might as well just leave it back on c2. That doesn't really do anything for us. So bishop e3, and now black could play queen b6 anyway. Seems like a good question to ask. I'm not sure what happens after that, but I mean, white could just maybe defend with queen e2. Could try something trickier, like sacrificing the b pawn. b3 is ugly. I don't like it. I don't know what to recommend here for white. I mean, is there any tricks like this? No, it doesn't work. I don't know, man. Queen b6 looks like a problem. It's the best move for black. Anyways, he plays this. That gives white the c3 square for his knight. Yeah, this is okay for black, but not that exciting. And if you play knight c3, he went here. Black just wanted to be solid, but I don't see the point in a3. Maybe you should just castle. I feel like a3 actually weakens white's like light squares. Bishop d2, queen d2. You know, look at this. The guy immediately went for that. a3 is unnecessary. But I mean, black also has to remember his development here. He's not developing. And now this. Yeah, knight a5 might be a mistake. Black has knight f5. I mean, honestly, like, black looks really pretty solid here. Maybe he's not better, though. b4. But black is super solid. This may be a mistake. Now there. I mean, white really needs to castle. Why are we not castling here? Where are you planning on putting your king? First 92, okay. b5. Wow. So this is like... What is 92? Some kind of... Is that the #1 move by the computer? Wow, white has g4. That's sick. g4. Oh my god. Dude, that's a serious move. Speaking of computers. Wow, g4 is like double exclamation point. Massive attack. Out of nowhere. That would be very hard to deal with. Black has to be super careful. I would have just castled. You know, and it's... Yeah, rook g1 is probably not that bad, actually. This is not that bad. So 92, b5, and now still g4. Queen f3. This is a little materialistic. And that's fatal. Game over. Wow. Speaking of materialistic, the word of this game is materialistic. First of all, this is kind of a defensive move, but also based on materialism, right? But black's next move, I mean, this is like totally blind. You know, how can you weaken your... You're getting mated on the dark squares. That's crazy. Just to save this pawn on h5. Or maybe he thought he could defend this somehow. With knight f5. I mean, maybe he really thought he could do some kind of circus act. But clearly king h7 doesn't help. I thought maybe knight f5. But knight f5 loses a queen. Now you played queen g5 just pinning. Oh, okay. I mean, I would think like even knight f3 is good. This is brutal. Something went seriously awry around here. Probably even pawn takes pawn is strong. No, that'll drop a queen. Never mind. King takes. You never bothered castling. It's okay. Here, b4, queen a4. Yeah, I mean, if pawn takes pawn, you've got knight f5 to worry about. Suddenly white might not be winning. So takes. Rook c8. Bishop c5. Game over. Nice knowing you. And the rest is just... Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Carol Khan thematic analysis stream. That was Repun versus Pumpkin. We've got Morales versus Schieberspieler up. So it's a Carol Khan thematic. Morales also in e5. Advanced Carol Khan. What time is it? We got plenty of time. Alright, Morales and Husky are left to do. So this is against the legendary Schieberspieler. Perfect score from Tuesday night's tournament. It's always 3 a.m. Tezek, you're obsessed. e4, c6, d4, d5, e5. You could still play knight h6, but it's not as good here, you know. It's not as good here. What? There was another game where someone did this. Wait, Matheson. I don't know who that is. No, I don't recommend it necessarily here. So bishop f5, and now Morales with the kind of like controlled knight f3, e6, bishop e2. Morales, do you always play this line? No, you've played other systems. Yeah, psychologists can be obsessed for sure, man. They're probably all self-medicating. Yeah, yeah, g4. Well, knight c3, right? I mean, didn't you play like knight c3 against me before? Or we transposed. You never played this move on move 4? Maybe we had that by transposition. I don't remember. I thought we had a game in that. Keep calm. No, I like this. This is solid and correct. But, you know, the big fashion is like knight d2. Although I think this line is difficult. It's kind of abstract. I mean, you're really like playing to contain black's counterplay with c5. It's prophylactic, really. But I wonder about knight d2 and bishop e3. Obviously, there's that move. So knight d2 is the Magnus Carlsen preference. h4 is very popular now. You've played this. Okay, knight f3, e6, bishop e2, classical and safe. We've played this before, and now I'm surprised the cheaper spieler played c5, this like old variation. This is like Karpov. I used to play this too. There are a lot of not so old games though, so it's still being played. Maybe he's keeping his best stuff for like secret. It seems like knight e7 has the best score. I've been playing that lately. There's also knight d7. I don't really believe in this stuff like h6. It feels wrong to me, but even that's possible. Okay. So c5. Now you played c3. I don't really like this, man. I mean, the dynamic line is like bishop e3. To me, this seems like far more critical and dangerous for black. You're going to try to rip him open with c4. I mean, it's much sharper not to play c3. Why play c3? c3 is like passive. I don't really like this move. Surprisingly, white has a plus score in the main line here with knight to c6. But I can't imagine. Okay, there's like maybe you're going on like really old analysis. There's like original Nigel Short versus Sarawon game. I mean, I think before the idea was discovered to play like bishop e3, c3 was kind of like the first thing, you know, people wanted to reinforce the center. But it seems to me like this is way more dynamic. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. This is not easy for black. If you know the lines perfectly, you're probably okay. But I still think that bishop e3 has got to be the best move. Or even castles, but the c3 is like, kind of feels like a Potzer variation. I mean, still white is like very solid, but I mean, without the plan to play c4, it just doesn't seem like... So c3 makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know. It's not very dynamic. It's not bad. Yeah, I mean, that's why Nigel Short played it in 1990. Castles. So, Schieberspieler seems to know the line that's like best statistically. Bishop g6. But my problem is, like, what does white do now? And why did we need to play c3 if black's not even going to take here? So bishop e3, no, a3. I don't know. This might be something modern. Now we're looking at something modern. A3. There seems to be a lot of games here. Look at this. 2016, 2017, 2016. Okay, they're not very recent, but still. 2019. Okay, it makes sense. You're playing for b4. I probably played this before. But you know, it's not obvious, like, Schieberspieler's moved knight c6 either. But he has a problem, like, what does he do? If he plays this, this pawn is unprotected on c5. So how do you get your pieces out? That's the problem. Personally, that's why I like knight e7 better first. But it's hard to say. It looks fine. a3. So now c takes d4. Black doesn't really have a waiting move here. It is possible to play c4. But eventually white will break. I mean, you can call c4 anti-positional. Normally c4 is a mistake, but I mean, sometimes in the French, it becomes playable when white plays a3. You would never ever play c4 if white hadn't played a3. But I mean, you got to at least consider the possibility here. I don't really like it, but some people might. cd4. Unfortunately, now white has a good square for the knight. Knight e7, and it's basically like an advanced French. It is an advanced French, where Schieberspieler's bishop is transferred from c8 to g6. It's a standard kind of advanced French here, and now we have the Prohashka knight on c8. I mean, normally this would be bad, but I don't know. You know, in this particular position, with the knight coming here, and maybe here and here, with those squares weakened, maybe knight c8's a good move. It's more natural to put the knight on f5. The problem is it can get attacked by g4, obviously. You know, it has h4. I mean, this clearly has to be considered. I would prefer to put my knight on f5 than c8 in general. Let's see what the computer prefers. It's close. They're both playable. Yeah, I don't know. I just try to stay away from knight c8 because it kind of, you get a little bit like spatially hemmed in, but it's playable. Here, now apparently this is a move. There's a Dreyev game with black. Now a5. So this is where we left theory. Like, Schieberspieler's point was, you don't play c4, you have to put pressure on the center. So we don't play c4, taking pressure off the center. It's a classic strategic concept. I mean, this is the center, you need to put pressure on it, you know, not like let the pressure off. This is a new move. Okay, so knight b6, that's what I figured. Elyanov and Dreyev. Because they're looking at that square. It's a nice square. And also it's possible to just develop with like bishop e7, I imagine. And then, you know, do this a little later. The problem is that white will have maybe knight b3 and here, and there's no time. This is a question. You know, if you go knight b6 now, is it too late because of like knight c5 or... This is the kind of stuff you have to think about. I mean, you don't want to play like b6 with your knight on c8 and your bishop on e7. That's clearly not good. Schieberspieler, it's not possible you played a bad move. You would never play a bad move. It's impossible. You don't make mistakes. A5 is an active move. I mean, you're trying to do something. Is it a positional mistake? Maybe. I mean, I need to calculate. I can't really say if it's bad or not. I mean, it could go haywire, but it could be a good move. You know, I don't know. We really have to calculate. It does look like you need to develop a bit more. So knight d2, a5. Novelty, forcing white to play b5. But you know what he's going to play. I mean, it's obvious. Like, he only has one move here. You're forcing him to play b5. This is not a surprise. Schieberspieler's trick was this, back to b8, which I didn't see. I mean, it's kind of slow, but he doesn't want his knights getting each other's way. So this actually makes some sense. But it looks like it's better not to do that. Someone played a6, which is rather passive. I don't really like that either. I mean, white's not threatening b5, because you can go out to a5, it seems okay. So what white's only real threat is like putting a knight on c5, I think. Slowly taking over. I guess if I were you, I would play either knight b6 or bishop e7 and continue development. But as I said, this does get a little irritating. You don't want to be too passive. So why did both of those strong players play knight b6? Are they getting in c4 fast? Is that the point? Like, if white goes here, we're like, no, we're in your face now. I think that's probably the idea. Because white can't do this. You can't give me your white square bishop. Then so it's like, who gets in first? See, Bologan they both played bishop b2. So it's like, no, you go first. No, I insist, you go first. We're fighting over these support points. Morales can't play knight b3 because he'll allow knight c4, So he can't actually get into c5 with his knight on b3. It's kind of like a Mexican standoff. And there's a third game with Svatushkin. So I guess after this, like, black is short of space. Interesting. Honestly, Morales here, you don't really have another waiting move. That's the problem. Maybe Morales could play something like g3, ultimately, like preparing to slowly move his kingside pawns or something like that. I don't know what other move to play. Like this is possible with knight f1. Bang, bang, castles, and now knight e1. I mean, unfortunately, we take away control of the center. Yeah, right. That was what I was thinking. Could you wait a move, maybe, to play bishop a3? Of course, it's a reasonable positional exchange. Morales also has this nice rook lift, but I'm not sure, realistically, it's ever going to matter. He's a big rook lift person from the Budapest Gambit. But black has some problems with the space. So he did it. Primarily, we'd like to play for f4, f5, but Morales just doesn't have that much development yet. He feels like, you're a little behind in development. All your pieces are on the back rank. This is a classic game. White could easily be overextended. I mean, maybe There are some positions where Schieberspieler could even play like knight c4 as a temporary pawn sack. You know, just hypothetically. Here, just look at this for a second. Like here, 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 here. To get control of d4 and a4 and d5. And maybe there's some place where he could try to sack a pawn to get in there. Otherwise, he's just going to come to the c file. But Morales is abandoning the c file. And Schieberspieler just goes right forward, of course. I mean, this is very logical. We're just coming in. But where can we come? Because, like, c3 is guarded. c2 is guarded. So only c1, right? Here. And now, I'm surprised. Schieberspieler played queen e7. I was expecting queen c7 because trade of queens is welcome, right? But there won't be any trade of queens. He'll. I mean, you do it like a Slav recapture here with f takes, maybe. It's not so simple for white. You know, white looks very close to overextended. It's very tricky to keep his center controlled. You know, I would be scared with white. I might be more scared to play this with white than with black. It's easy to make a mistake and lose, but you got to watch this pawn. It looks like that's very tricky. Well, you can't force a trade of queens necessarily, Schieberspieler. Like, even if you went queen c1, he could play queen e2 or something like that. But I think if you could trade queens and have control of the c file, you'd be doing well. So I see you're just invading down here. Yeah, I guess this is much more straightforward. He's just invading on b4, you know, and attacking d4 and a4. Very logical. And now he just took the pawn. This is pretty evil, you know, threatening h4, h5. But presumably Schieberspieler will have like h5 in some moment when white plays h4 to slow him down. Here. Slightly materialistic, but what else are you going to do? h4. And so now I was looking at this. Does that just weaken your king side too much? You think... What? Can't take it? Can I take it? On h5? You want to take on h5? What? Take what? Oh, h4 what? You're saying first h4. Queen g4 premature. Yeah. No. Yeah, there's no h4. No, I mean, this makes sense. My only question is Schieberspieler better off playing h5 or some other move? Because f6 or f5 or whatever might be a good move, but it's very radical. You know, it may weaken black's position. If I can play this, what happens? Like queen f4, queen g5. I don't want to trade queens with white. Queen f3. I mean, where does white put his queen? Like, I don't see a lot of good squares. I guess queen f4. But we don't even have a threat here. Like, white has no threat. I guess slowly. I mean, what is white's threat? What does white play after h5? I don't really get it. I mean, anything like this walks into knight c3, knight c3, knight b2. No, I think black's good here. h5 is strong. But apparently his move is the computer move. f5 is even stronger. h5 is good enough. This is even stronger. E takes f6, knight takes f6. I figured there might be some complications with slightly weakening your e6 pawn. Here. Bishop d3, knight d3. Knight c3. Rook e1. I mean, the engine is one thing, but objectively, you know, certain moves might be better for humans than they are for computers. I mean, that's kind of like what I'm saying here. Maybe objectively the computer's f5 and Schieberspieler's f5 is better than h5, but maybe this move is somehow like easier to play for black or something with less risk. Because f5 loosens a lot of black's position. There's more ways to go wrong after that because the e6 pawn is weak. He has to be careful. Bishop d3, so that was your mistake, apparently. Black has to be very accurate. I mean... And now, not, you know, not difficult to see, Schieberspieler is not a computer, so something went wrong. And now he bails with this knight e4. Queen e7, rook e7, knight e4, knight e4, knight e4, knight e4, rook e4. And white is on the verge of coming back. Or maybe he already came back. I still kind of like this outside pawn, though, for black. I feel like Schieberspieler's still better here, even though he lost his extra pawn back. Intuitively, that outside pawn looks really juicy. Knight c3 immediately instead of bishop d3. So take here, knight c3 immediately. Yeah, this is, in the cold light of day, apparently the stronger move. There are problems with knight e2 check. So it would have been better. Objectively, black is probably winning. So Morales was lucky there. But now he has serious counterplay, and the rook endgame looks quite interesting to me. I still think black is better here. Let's see what the computer says. So it's +1, but probably a draw with perfect play. The problem is it's not so easy, you know, to get this pawn down. King f7, now b6. That's an interesting move. Not allowing black to have a protected passer and making a5 an artificially isolated pawn. Probably a good move. Rook c6, rook a3, rook b6, and now rook a5. And the really surprising thing about this game for me isn't the game, but the time. Morales is actually equal in time to Schieberspieler. Not only has he equalized, but where did Schieberspieler's time go? You know, that's the thing that I don't understand. He's usually insanely fast, and Morales isn't slow, but I'm surprised that Schieberspieler has actually used over 5 minutes here. I'm curious, like, where your time went, because normally he plays insanely fast. Somewhere Schieberspieler used 5 minutes of time. Actually, the time control 7 + 3. Yeah, like 5 minutes of time. So this is a draw, objectively, but black's still psychologically and, well, theoretically better because he has an outside pawn. So this was around the point where I saw the game, and I figured, okay, it's a draw, but white has to play really accurately. f3, I'm not sure. Do we have d5? That was the game. This is when I came up to the game. And rook e4, and this is where I saw it. Let's look here for a second. If rook e4 were lost, you know, I don't think this is clear. Yeah, that's probably lost too. Yeah, we have to play pawn takes. But I felt like maybe white isn't lost here. E takes d5. Is there a better move? Is king f6? Is king f6 possible? That's a draw. Wow, even e takes d5 is the best. Now you can't trade rooks or you're lost, so you have to take. And now king f6. I guess this is a theoretical draw, but very, very much not necessarily easy. What happens if we bail on the pawn? Do we play like rook e8, give the pawn up, and try to defend like behind? Can white win this position? Maybe. Maybe he goes back and then crosses the king over here. I don't know, theoretically, if this is a draw or not. I thought this was a really tough position, Morales, honestly. Here's your question. Do you leave your rook in an awkward position to try to hang on to this pawn? Or do you like give it up and try to like just go down a pawn and defend actively? Let's see what the computer says. Yep. At first it says rook e8, then it changed its mind. But I don't know if this is a win. There's also this. You can try to do the frontal, but I don't think that's as good. You want to be behind the pawn. Rook e8, rook d5. I assume rook b8, but this isn't so good. So you have to bring your king up. I assume by the evaluation it's a theoretical draw. 1.5 is usually a draw. But I mean, it would take very, very precise play for white to hold this. But that was a tough position. Now you played rook h5. And then here, honestly, like, Schieberspieler surprised me. I mean, I thought the position was very hard for white to hold after h6. To be honest, I would have just played h6, and I know that it's not easy for white to draw this. g4. I guess g4, b5, g5 check, king g6 wins a rook. So you have to play another move. But I was surprised when Schieberspieler. How much time did you spend on this move? He spent 10 seconds, so a chunk of his time. 10 seconds on b5. I didn't see it. I mean, I thought, okay, h6, the rook is boxed in. It's great. We like the fact this rook can't move. But he just sacrificed the h7 pawn. I have no idea which is better. But it's certainly worth thinking about. So they're close. Amazingly, the engine says it's a draw. Either way. And that b5 is a slightly better move. Though we're not giving it that much time to think. But this may be the best practical try. And now Morales loses with rook takes h7. But I mean, to be fair, you have like 16 seconds left. Fear of the outside passed pawn. What's up, move 11? So this is a really hard position to save. I guess he has to like bring his rook back like this or something. I would have probably lost too. The engine says like king f2, b4, king e3. We're in the square of the pawn. Just hanging on by literal threads. I mean, it's so sick because like h6 and your rook can't move to a single square. It's literally frozen, and white is holding here because of g4. And you can't trap it. And this king is inside the square of the pawn. So he's holding. Just barely. And you have time to get in front of the pawn. But I mean, this is a natural mistake. You want to take, go down, go behind, but Spieler gets his rook behind first. So it's like perfect technique. Bang. And it's lost. And this isn't enough counterplay. It looks like it might be, but it's not. That was a fun game. It was a fun game. Yeah, for a minute I thought there was a hope, but this is very brutal technique, rook b3. If Schieberspieler is sloppy here, I guess there's still theoretically a chance he can mess this up, right? I mean, most average players might screw this up. See, king f4, king c3 takes. Rook takes b2. It would take a really concerted effort for black to lose this or not win it. Yeah, he can't really mess it up. Anyway, good game by Schieberspieler and a nice attempt by Morales at a much higher rated player. Move 11 is an outside pass pawn for Halloween this year. You spooked the whole block. That's a serious outside pass pawn. Square of the pawn. Alright, we've got Husky with a submission. Husky's submission, his first ever tournament game. We're going to assume, let's see, he's white. I don't know if Husky's still here. I'm going to assume he's white because white won. And he's got to win his first game ever. I drew my first tournament game. How about you guys? My first tournament game was a draw. I was 2 pawns up, but I was afraid of my endgame technique. So I offered a draw to my opponent. I didn't have confidence being 2 pawns up in an ending. Schieberspieler lost his first game. I was a chicken and offered a draw in a winning position, probably. Knight f3, d5, c4. Move 11, you were just looking at this. We were looking at some interesting lines. Critical is d4. Move 11 showed me something I had never seen before. But there's a funny variation here. b4, g5. I didn't know this was a real thing. Schieberspieler, your first game was the Sicilian Kuprejcik variation? I don't know if g5 is good, but it's a variation I wasn't even aware of. I avoid this like the plague. I mean, I used to play the ready, but you got to really know what you're doing. I mean, b4 is the only good move for white. Honestly, e3 is nothing, and g3 is you're playing black. So the only chance for white is b4. And you have to have this super well prepared. If your opponent's a strong player, you better know what you're doing. I'm too lazy for that. So I basically stopped playing c4 at some point. That's why I started playing g3 with white. I don't want to be worse with white after 5 moves or something. Alright, but his opponent played e6. Now g3, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7, castle. And now, slightly unusual move by black, c6. This is extremely passive, I would say. It's basically black is playing a passive Coley system with bishop e7 instead of bishop d6, but there's some logic to it. If you put the bishop on d6, white can play d3, e4, e5, and fork your pieces. If you play the Coley system, white has played d4, black's bishop's on d6, reversed. So I think that black's setup is unnecessarily passive. I mean, castles is normal. Takes is normal. c5 is some kind of Tarash. There's all kinds of moves. This delayed d4 is a thing. I don't know if it's good. Yeah, I mean, c6 is slightly passive. It's still fine. The thing that bothers me the most is the sort of castles. You know, what are you going to do now? This is like my game with Chess Bia from 2 years ago. I was so disgusted with my position that I just offered to draw in 15 moves. I can't take it anymore. You know, it's hopeless for white. We had b3, b6, bishop e2, bishop b7. And then I did I don't know, e3, c5, queen e2, knight c6, knight c3, rook c8, rook c1, queen c7, rook fd1, and it was like, I give up, you know? I just give up. I don't know, you know, it's just too boring and I can't win. It was like, yeah, no, Schieberspieler's right. Like, I'm surprised White has a good score in this position. I even tried knight a3. I'm so desperate. I literally started playing like knight a3 in one game to try to do something different, you know, just to try to confuse my opponents. I don't know, you know, it's tough. Galjás Miklós, one of our Hungarian IMs, yearly GM, plays this stuff with White. He's had some good games, but last time I saw him, he got nothing against the Indian kid. I remember in the same tournament 2 years ago that I played in. It's hard, man. The ready doesn't offer White much. I agree with Schieberspieler. I think objectively, like, the Catalan's your best chance. I think you should play d4. This is the only chance, you know, for White to get anything objectively, you know. And even this is like super tough to get anything for White. But if there's any way to get an advantage for White, it's only chance is d4. b3 is just, you know, it's good against maybe very weak players, but you're never gonna be able to beat, you know, Chesbia or any kind of like 2250 plus players are like impossible to beat. But c6 is funky. Like, I don't know what Black's trying to do. Like, he's trying to transpose to the closed Catalan, I guess. Still, you should play, you know, d4 objectively. But I guess b3 is okay. Castles, bishop b2, knight on bd7, d3. You see, now you're transposed, but I mean, d4 is okay. I mean, I used to play this all the time with White, though. I wouldn't mind this as much as that other line. All the pieces are on the board. There's no exchanges. And I would play for, like, knight d2 and e4. I used to play this a lot when I was young. I guess on d4, Black might try b5. This is probably not a bad system. Going for b5 to try to clarify the queen side. Because you can. You know, that's annoying. Like the bishop coming out here or something like that. But you played... Game was d4 and you didn't play b5. You played the... Basically, we transposed to a Catalan, closed Catalan now. Yeah, I've played this before. This is a good move, knight c3. More aggressive than knight on bd2. I think I had this exact position against one Hungarian FM like 5 years ago. What was his name? Escapes me now. In the Hungarian Team Championship, very, very typical name. Just some FM. I think he played bishop a6. Move 11's favorite move. No, this is a chance now. We've got a Catalan. But bishop b7 is way more solid for Black. And I also think a5 is interesting. a5 with the idea of bishop a6 like behind the pawn chain is probably reasonable. So all of the above are playable. But bishop e7 most solid. Now, yeah, this is not really common. Funny, I have another student who played a similar idea. But typically, like rook e1, not a big deal. No, I wonder if that might be a good move against bishop a6, ironically. Here, here. Like, if Black tries to win this pawn, I mean, it's probably kind of dangerous. Sabo Balash. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Wow, Schieberspieler, you're a genius. He found my game that I was talking about from like 5 years ago. That's insane. You found that game? That's unbelievable. I'm so surprised it's even in any database. Hungarian Team Championship, 2nd Division. Yeah, I was like, whatever, draw. I don't care. I hate this. That's crazy. Schieberspieler found it. Wow, it was like... Oh, that was weird. What is that? What is that? It was bishop a6, b3, d takes c4, e4. Well, I didn't realize it went like that. That's kind of crazy. Funny how your memory plays tricks on you. I don't remember it being so crazy. He did Rousis with h6. Queen e2, b5. Yeah. So rook e1 is bad. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. So what should you do here? Well, his opponent played bishop b7. Okay. Rook e1. Yeah, now rook c8 is normal, but probably c5 is okay. And now c takes d5. And this transposes to a Queen's Indian. You know, I think here now, Farago Ivan is happy because you've transposed from the Catalan to the Queen's Indian. And now black took with the knight. I was kind of hoping he would take with the pawn. And what's that American, Argentinian guy's name? What's his name? Move 11, are you still here? Hungaski? This is like Hungaski's favorite position. Some kind of e3, like Queen's Indian, where we just sit here and it's really boring, but like white is just better. We have the perch on f5. Try to play like Queen d3, Queen f5. White just stands a little bit better. But really not very exciting. But your opponent took with a knight on d5. Now, that goes for trading pieces. I guess we take, and we go for it here. Now this gives us a window. Oh, you played e4. No, you should take, and then play e4. If bishop takes d5, e4 looks really dynamic. Heinrich Danielson versus Bagaturov. Heinrich Danielson not playing the birds opening. No, this is cool. This is a dynamic chance for white against Georgie. So Bagaturov, and obviously this more dry. This dog food is dry. No, this is just a grind. You know, white's a little better here. So this was the second mistake. Or was that the positional mistake you were talking about? Husky, rook e1 is like nothing, but this is a positional mistake. You should have taken the knight. No, but you're better here. Now he's got a problem. This looks better for you, and this also is better for you. Though not very exciting, this would be black's solid way to go. Alright, so instead, we had e4 right away, which I'm afraid, honestly, I'm afraid this leads to like too symmetrical of a position. This would be my fear now, that it's just too symmetrical. The totally symmetrical structure. Fear of symmetrical structures. The FSS. Move 11, we have a new fear. Fear of symmetrical structures. I suffer from very serious FSS. I hate the exchange French. I hate the exchange Slav. I hate like playing d5 in the Boldler attack of the Sicilian because like white can play e takes d5, e takes d5. And here we go again. It's going to be like take, take, take. Oh my god, he didn't take. You've got to be kidding me. He's got to take this. I mean, he's got a totally symmetrical structure. It's going to be very hard to lose after c takes d. And what's he afraid of? Like, you'll play queen takes d4 and threaten mate in one? I mean, BFD here. Bishop f6 and what? You know, e5? Just go back. I mean, this is going to be a draw very likely, even if white has some sort of space advantage. I would be very concerned. There's also knight f6, probably. White has maybe some kind of microscopic advantage, but it's almost impossible to win. So he did this. And now you have a chance to play d5. I don't know what's going on. But at least it imbalances the position. Maybe it's good, maybe it's nothing. But it's a chance. Yeah. No, I mean, you got to. Otherwise, he's going to draw you. He's going to make a symmetrical structure. Of course. Yeah, this is huge, giving him the symmetrical structure. Well, I mean, it's got to be based on calculation, you know. Hopefully this pawn isn't weak, and we have chances to attack on the king side. But you have to calculate, you know. I guess takes. There's always, like, the psychopathic pawn sack. That's not going to work. But I'm just saying, like, that concept exists in chess. So, pawn takes pawn, threatening d6? Not really. Black has a solid blockade even here. But you might have bishop h3. His knight doesn't have any great squares. You might have tactical tricks. Queen c2 here. The other rook's coming to d1. I mean, you might have been thinking like you're worse because you have a worse structure. But again, I think it's like heavily, you know, revolving around calculation. Do we have any tactics here? This does look concerning, though. I mean, it does look like we're losing the pawn. Is there some sort of tactic to save us? Knight h4, we're just dropping that pawn. If knight h4, bishop d5, bishop f6, so knight d5. You have some kind of sick tactic, like bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes e7. Is that the point? You have something like this, like winning 2 pieces for a rook. Queen e7, queen d5. I mean, that's very dangerous for black, for example. You'd have to calculate all of that, like, in advance. But black can also... No. So bishop d5... Sorry. Knight f6. Knight h4. I mean, obviously black has other moves like g6 he could do. You'd have to calculate a lot of stuff here. You have d6 now. You open up the diagonal, it becomes very dangerous. Tactically, that looks like a problem. For example. So is that the move, knight h4? That changes the evaluation? Knight d5. Bishop d5. What can he do? There's no other choice. Yeah, I guess this is it. Let's see. Knight f6, computer. Oh, there's no analysis board. That's fine. Whatever. You know, this to me looks like the kind of thing you got to calculate. If it's not there, it's not there. You know, if it is there, you got to go for it. Knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e4 is a mistake, though. I would not do that. I think it's much just simpler to... It was just simpler to take here. I can't turn on the engine there, but it's fine. Whatever. I don't want to worry about it. So anyway, let's see what happened. Take, rook c1, and then he blunders again. He's got to play pawn takes pawn. My God, there's a game from this exact position from 1986. That's crazy. So let's see. All right, I tried to turn on the engine a minute ago, but my guess is that variation. Take, knight f6. I'm gonna guess it's knight h4. Let me refresh this. No, it's still not working. I don't think so. Don't worry about it. Lichess is fussy. We still can't turn on the engine here. It's some kind of settings. But I'm not going to worry about it. Did we lose the game? No. Alright, I want to see what happened. So, bishop f6, he misses his chance, and then you played e5. I mean, this is kind of anti-positional. Here, I don't know what to suggest, though. You should still play d5, right? But it's no longer even as good. You might have some sort of bishop h3 later. But, like, okay, objectively, it looks like d5. Bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, knight f6. This might be a problem. Yeah, I mean, it's not as good anymore. But there's still tactics. There are still tactics like this, you know, this type of stuff. I mean, he could be in trouble still, even here. Yes, it's knight h4 winning. e5 move is a strategic mistake. Yeah, bishop e7. And now, I don't think white is better. You got to be careful you're not overextended. Knight d2, bishop g2, king g2, cd4, bishop d4. And you're lucky that you're holding on to your pawn on e5. So he actually trades like his good bishop for your bad bishop, which definitely doesn't help him. And I mean, again, doesn't he want to trade pieces here? Okay, he changed his mind. Maybe it's not a bad move, bishop b4. Because here you look like you're better. You know, here you're better again. This massive, you know, knight coming into d6. So he changed his mind, not trading off bad bishop. Rook takes, rook e2, and that's a nasty diagonal. So naturally f3, computer says that's a mistake, but a very, very, very logical one. This guy was pretty good, honestly. He played quite solidly and positionally. So now we're defending against a powerful queen centralized on d5. Man, black played well. And now he goes into an ending where your bishop comes to life on the diagonal. So you're not actually threatening anything here. He doesn't have to take it. But I think at best you're just holding on. If you won this game, it's like very fortunate. Because you basically just like overextended yourself. It's a draw. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he should even take your knight, honestly. I was wondering if black has another move, like rook c6 or something. Maybe he can hold off on taking your knight. I'm not sure. The knight's not really threatening anything. You can block him. You can block him with like knight c4. Maybe. But it's probably not a big deal. Actually, knight c4 could harass your queen, but... Okay, he does the natural thing. Take, and now f6. Weakening e6 slightly. But your bishop is a big problem. Rook d2 threatening. And now you have the discovery. But no way to take on f6. You lost a pawn. So queen d1. Here. He's up a pawn. And you're fighting for a draw. It's not so easy though. I mean, I think like this is not an easy position for black to convert to a win. Typical like bishop versus knight middle game. He has no passer. His king is a little opened up by f6. Not an easy game to win for black. Objectively, I don't know, maybe your bishop, maybe even this diagonal. I don't know where to put it. Because you're kind of dead here. It's hard to say where to put your bishop. This was interesting, though, coming in there. You almost got some serious threats here. Wow. Rook d8 check. King f7. Rook f8 check. King g6. You know, luckily, like, you have nothing after that. Yeah, that was a cool idea, to get your bishop out there. So that was the plan. Yeah, I was wondering why bishop e2, but it makes sense. And so you have compensation. Now it looks like you have real compensation. He kind of wishes he hadn't played f6. Yeah, black's got to be careful. And it's a draw. Although white could lose. Theoretically, white could lose. You know, you're down a double pawn, but it shouldn't be any way to win. There's no way this is a win. Yeah. Yeah, so okay, like typical mistakes positionally for white in the Catalan. You're lucky you didn't lose, though. You played some serious strategic mistakes. Alright, guys, thanks everybody for playing, and I mean for sending in the games. Thanks for playing them in the first place. Thanks to all of the viewers for sending in your games to tonight's stream. I had a lot of fun going over these games. This was Husky's first over-the-board game. I thought your opponent played well. He was a little passive, but clearly, you know, cautious. But not any real mistakes. You know, he played very solidly for an over-the-board game. Thanks, Schieberspieler, for joining us. Thanks to Astrobait, Mr. Coffee, and everyone. All the regulars for being here and for submitting your games. We'll be back on Monday morning at Friday. We'll be back Monday morning. What am I saying? We'll be back Friday morning. It's been a long day. We'll be back Friday morning at 11 a.m. to play some Blitz challenges, open challenges. I'm gonna actually raid. We don't have many viewers tonight because it's a subscriber stream, but I'm gonna raid Mustache Chess, Art Vega. So don't leave if you're still watching. Bye bye, everybody.